"Step away from the child, sir. You're not authorized." The security guard's hand pressed hard against Michael Brennan's chest, shoving him backward. His 8-year-old daughter screamed from behind the glass doors, tears streaming down her face, reaching for him. He didn't fight. He didn't shout. He stood there, a father being treated like a criminal at the school he had secretly built with $12 million of his own money. They had no idea who they were pushing. Before we continue, drop your city in the comments below. And if you believe every father deserves respect, hit that subscribe button. This story is about to change everything you think you know about judgment. Now back to Michael Brennan, and the moment his silence became the loudest sound in that building. Michael Brennan pulled his truck into the parking lot at exactly 3:15 p.m. Same time, same routine, every single day for 3 years. He killed the engine and sat there for a moment, hands still on the wheel. The old Ford F-150 rattled twice before going quiet. Paint was chipping on the hood. The passenger seat had a tear in the leather that he kept meaning to fix but never did. He could afford any car in the world. He chose this one. Sarah had picked it out. Back when they were still young and broke and stupid in love. Back when Emma was just a dream they whispered about in the dark. "We'll need a truck someday," Sarah had said, laughing. "For soccer practice, dance recitals, all the dad stuff." All the dad stuff. Michael stepped out and walked toward Whitmore Academy's front entrance. The building gleamed in the afternoon sun, all glass and steel and money. The kind of place where senators sent their kids, where CEOs wrote checks just to get their names on waiting lists. Michael had never put his name on anything here, not once. He'd written the check for the entire STEM wing, $12 million, million pesos, anonymous. Because that's not why he did it. He did it because Emma loved science. Because she came home every day talking about robots and circuits and how she was going to build a rocket ship someday. He did it because he wanted her to have everything. And right now, all he wanted was to pick up his daughter and take her home. He reached the front entrance. That's when everything changed. A woman stood at the security desk. Michael had never seen her before. New badge, new face, sharp eyes that swept over him like he was something to be assessed. Her nameplate read, Mrs. Victoria Thornton, Director of Student Security. She held up one hand before he even reached the door. "Sir, stop right there." Michael stopped. "I'm here to pick up my daughter, Emma Brennan, 3rd grade. Mrs. Thornton didn't move. Her eyes traveled down his body, the faded jeans, the worn hoodie, the work boots with dried mud on the soles. "I'll need to see identification." Of course. Michael reached into his back pocket, pulled out his wallet, handed over his driver's license. She studied it, turned it over, studied it again. "Michael Brennan." "That's right." "And you're claiming to be Emma Brennan's father." Claiming. The word hit different. Michael felt something tighten in his chest, but he kept his voice steady. "I'm not claiming anything. I am her father. I pick her up every day at 3:15. Mrs. Thornton's lips pressed into a thin line. She turned to her computer, typed something, scrolled. "I don't see you in the system." "That's impossible. I've been registered since Emma started here 3 years ago." "Well, you're not in the system now." She looked up, eyes cold. "We had a security update last week, new protocols. If you're not in the system, you're not authorized." Michael took a breath. "Okay, there must be a mistake. Can you call Principal Davies? He knows me. He can verify." "Principal Davies is in a meeting." "Then call Emma's teacher, Mrs. Patterson, room 112. She sees me every single day." "Sir." Mrs. Thornton's voice sharpened. "I'm not going to disrupt the school because someone shows up claiming to be a parent." There it was again. Claiming. Michael felt the eyes of other parents on him now. A woman in a designer coat glanced over, then quickly looked away. A man in a business suit pulled his son closer, as if proximity to Michael was somehow dangerous. "Ma'am," Michael said, keeping his voice calm. I don't know what happened to the system, but I'm Emma Brennan's father, her only parent. Her mother passed away 3 years ago. I'm all she has. And she's waiting for me right now, probably wondering why I'm not there." Mrs. Thornton's expression didn't change. "Do you have any other documentation, birth certificate, custody papers?" "I don't carry custody papers to pick up my daughter from school." "Then I can't help you." "You can't help me." Michael repeated it slowly, letting the words hang there. "My daughter is inside that building. I'm her father, and you're telling me you can't help me. I'm telling you that without proper verification, you cannot enter this facility." Michael stared at her. 42 years on this earth. Built a company from nothing. Donated millions to this very school. And right now he was being treated like a threat. But he'd been here before. Different places, different faces, same look. The look that said, "You don't belong here." At the hospital when Sarah was dying. The nurse who asked if he was the husband or the driver. At the playground when Emma was 4. The mother who called the police because a suspicious man was pushing a child on the swings. His own child. At the parent-teacher conference last year. The father who asked, genuinely confused, "So, you're the nanny. Different faces, same look." Michael had learned long ago that shouting didn't help. That anger only confirmed whatever they already believed about you. So he did what he always did. He waited. "Sir." Mrs. Thornton's voice turned harder. "I'm going to have to ask you to leave the premises." "I'm not leaving without my daughter." "Then I'll have to call security." "Call them." She picked up her radio. "I need security at the front entrance. We have a situation." 2 guards appeared within a minute. Michael knew them. Frank and Danny. He'd talked to Frank about the Eagles last week. Danny's son played baseball with Emma's friend Jake. But something was different now. Their faces were stiff, professional. They stood on either side of Mrs. Thornton like soldiers awaiting orders. "This man," Mrs. Thornton said, "is claiming to be Emma Brennan's father. He's not in the system. He refuses to leave." Frank's eyes met Michael's. Something flickered there. Recognition, maybe confusion, but it disappeared as quickly as it came. "Sir, we're going to need you to step outside." "Frank." Michael kept his voice even. "You know me. We talked 3 days ago about the playoff game." Frank's jaw tightened. He didn't respond. "Danny, your son Jake. He was at Emma's birthday party last month. You dropped him off yourself." Danny looked down, silent. Mrs. Thornton stepped closer. "This is exactly what I'm talking about. He knows personal details. That's a red flag. This could be a targeted situation." "A targeted situation." Michael almost laughed. "I'm a dad, picking up my kid. That's the situation." "Sir." Frank's hand moved to his belt. "Step outside, now. We don't want to escalate this." Michael didn't move. "Where's my daughter?" "That's not your concern." "She's my daughter. She's my only concern." The lobby had gone quiet. Parents had stopped moving. Children pressed against the glass doors of the pickup area watching. And then Michael heard it. "Daddy." Emma's voice. High and terrified. He turned. She was behind the glass doors leading to the hallway. Her face was pressed against the window, tears running down her cheeks, her small hands slapping the glass. "Daddy! Daddy!" A teacher, not Mrs. Patterson. Someone Michael didn't recognize had her arm around Emma's shoulders trying to pull her back. "Emma!" Michael started toward the door. Frank stepped in front of him. "Sir, stop!" "That's my daughter. She's crying. She's scared. Let me go to her." "Not until we verify your identity." "Daddy, why won't they let you in?" Emma's scream cut through the lobby like breaking glass. Michael felt something crack inside him. 3 years of grief. 3 years of doing everything alone. 3 years of being everything to that little girl, the father and the mother and the protector and the comforter. And now they were keeping him from her. He looked at Frank. "Move." Sir. Move. Now. Frank didn't move. Michael took another step forward. Danny grabbed his arm. Michael shook him off, not violently, just firmly. Don't touch me, Mrs. Thornton's voice rang out. He's getting aggressive. I'm calling the police. I haven't done anything aggressive. I'm standing here. You're the ones putting hands on me. Daddy! Emma was sobbing now. The teacher had pulled her back from the door, but Michael could still hear her crying that terrible heartbroken sound that every parent knows. The sound that says, I need you. Where are you? Why aren't you here? Michael turned to face the crowd of watching parents. Some had their phones out. Recording. Good. Let them record. Let them see exactly what was happening. My name is Michael Brennan, he said loud enough for everyone to hear. I'm a single father. My wife died 3 years ago. That little girl in there is my whole world. And these people are treating me like a criminal because I showed up in jeans instead of a suit. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Mrs. Thornton snapped back. This has nothing to do with what you're wearing. You're not in the system. Protocol is protocol. Protocol. Michael nodded slowly. Protocol is keeping a father from his crying daughter. Protocol is treating me like a kidnapper at the school He stopped himself. The school he what? He'd almost said it. Almost let the secret slip. But no. That wasn't the point. He didn't want special treatment because of his money. He wanted basic respect because he was a human being, because he was a father. The school you what? Mrs. Thornton's eyes narrowed. What were you going to say? Nothing. Forget it. No, please. Finish your sentence. The school you what? Rob threaten. Michael laughed. He couldn't help it. It was a bitter, exhausted laugh. Lady, you have no idea who you're talking to. That's the problem, isn't it? None of us know who you are. She turned to the guards. Detain him until the police arrive. Frank hesitated. Ma'am, he hasn't actually done anything. He's refusing to leave. He's disrupting operations. He's frightening children. Detain him. Danny reached for Michael's arm again. Michael pulled back. Don't. Sir, we can do this easy or hard. My daughter is crying. She's scared. She's watching her father get treated like a criminal. You think that's easy for her? Danny faltered. You have kids, Danny. Both of you do. Imagine this was you. Imagine you showed up to pick up your son and they wouldn't let you in. They called you a liar. They called the cops. And your kid was screaming for you through a window. Danny's hand dropped. Frank looked at the floor. Mrs. Thornton exploded. What are you doing? I gave you an order. With respect, ma'am, Frank said quietly. We know this man. He's been coming here for years. The system says otherwise. Systems make mistakes. Protocols exist for a reason. Child safety is not negotiable. Neither is basic decency. The lobby went silent. Frank had just pushed back, publicly, against a direct superior. Mrs. Thornton's face flushed red. You're both suspended, immediately. Ma'am, hand over your badges, now. Frank and Danny exchanged a look. Something passed between them, resignation maybe, or regret. They unclipped their badges and handed them over. Mrs. Thornton turned back to Michael. You, stay right there. The police are on their way. Michael didn't move. He could hear Emma still crying in the hallway. Quieter now, like she was giving up, like she was starting to believe that her daddy wasn't coming. That sound broke something inside him. He thought about Sarah, about the last conversation they ever had. She was 3 weeks from the end, though neither of them knew it then. She'd grabbed his hand in the hospital bed, her grip weak but desperate. Promise me something. Anything. Never let anyone make her feel small. Never let anyone make her feel like she doesn't matter. And you matter too, Michael. Don't let anyone tell you different. He'd promised, holding her hand, tears on his face. He'd kept that promise for 3 years. He wasn't going to break it now. Michael looked at Mrs. Thornton. His voice was calm, steady, cold. "You're going to regret this," she smirked. "Is that a threat?" "No, it's a fact." Sirens wailed in the distance, getting closer. The police were coming. Michael Brennan stood alone in that lobby, a father in worn jeans, judged by everyone, believed by no one. But he had something they didn't know about. Something they couldn't see. And when the truth came out, it wasn't going to be quiet. It was going to be deafening. The first police officer walked through the door 17 minutes later. Michael hadn't moved. Mrs. Thornton had called for backup, actual backup, not just school security. She described Michael as aggressive, uncooperative, potentially dangerous. None of which was true. But truth had stopped mattering about 15 minutes ago. The officer was young. Mid-20s maybe. Name tag said Reyes. He walked in with one hand hovering near his belt, eyes scanning the lobby. "We got a call about a disturbance," he said. "Someone want to tell me what's going on?" Mrs. Thornton stepped forward immediately. "Officer, thank you for coming. This man," she pointed at Michael, "showed up claiming to be a parent. He's not in our system. He refused to leave. He became aggressive with our security staff. I didn't become aggressive with anyone. And now 2 of my guards had to be suspended because they refused to follow protocol." Officer Reyes looked at Michael. "Sir, can you tell me your side?" "My name is Michael Brennan. I'm here to pick up my daughter Emma. 3rd grade. I've picked her up at this exact time, from this exact door every single day for 3 years. Today, this woman," he nodded at Mrs. Thornton, "decided I'm not in the system anymore. She won't let me see my daughter. My daughter is in the hallway crying. That's what's going on." Reyes frowned. "You've been picking her up for 3 years. Every day. And suddenly you're not in the system. Apparently." Reyes turned to Mrs. Thornton. "Ma'am, is it possible there was a glitch? A data error?" "Our system doesn't make errors, officer." "Every system makes errors." Mrs. Thornton's jaw tightened. "Child safety is our top priority. If someone isn't verified, they don't get access. Period. Even if they're obviously the parent. We can't know they're obviously anything. That's the point of verification." Another officer walked in. Older. Heavier. Badge said, "Collins." He took one look at the situation and sighed. "All right, what do we got?" Reyes briefed him quickly. Collins listened, then turned to Michael. "Sir, you got any ID?" "Already showed it. She said it wasn't enough." "What else you got?" "Anything with your daughter's name on it." Michael pulled out his wallet again. He found Emma's last school photo, the one she'd given him with a crayon-drawn heart on the back. "To the best daddy. Love, Emma." He held it out. Collins looked at it, then at Mrs. Thornton. "This seems pretty straightforward." "A photo proves nothing. Anyone could have a photo." "Ma'am, with respect, this is clearly a school photo, with a personal note. From a child. Forged, stolen, taken from social media, I don't know. But I do know that protocols exist for a reason, and I will not compromise the safety of our students because some stranger has a sob story." Michael felt the word like a slap. Stranger. 3 years. Hundreds of drop-offs. Dozens of school events, parent-teacher conferences, bake sales, science fairs, book fairs, holiday concerts. Stranger. "Officer," Michael said, keeping his voice level. "My daughter is in that hallway. She's 8 years old. She's scared. She's been crying for almost 30 minutes now. She doesn't understand why her father can't come get her. Please, just let me see her." Collins looked uncomfortable. "Ma'am, can we at least bring the girl out? Let her confirm whether this is her father." "Absolutely not." We cannot subject a child to potential manipulation. How is letting a kid see her dad manipulation? He could be grooming her. He could be threatening her. We have no idea what their relationship actually is. Michael's hands clenched at his sides, grooming her. He thought about the nights he'd stayed up with Emma when she couldn't sleep, reading her favorite book about the rabbit who traveled to the moon, making her warm milk with a little bit of honey just like Sarah used to. He thought about the mornings he'd braided her hair before school, badly at first, so badly that she'd come home laughing, showing him YouTube tutorials. "Daddy, you have to cross this one over that one." He thought about the day 2 years ago when she'd asked about her mother. Really asked. Not just, "Where's mommy?" but "Why did she have to go?" and "Is she ever coming back?" He'd held her for 3 hours that night, both of them crying, both of them holding on, grooming. If he opened his mouth right now, he didn't trust what would come out, so he stayed silent. Collins shifted his weight. "All right, look, let's all calm down. Mr. Brennan is there. Anyone else who can verify your identity?" "Another family member. A friend. My wife is dead. My parents are in Florida. I don't have siblings." "What about a neighbor?" "Someone who's seen you with your daughter," Michael thought. "Tom Richardson. He lives 2 doors down. He's seen us together 100 times. Can you call him?" "I can try." Michael pulled out his phone. His hands were steady, but inside something was shaking. He called Tom. Voicemail. "He's not answering." Collins sighed. "Anyone else?" Michael tried 2 more neighbors. Same result. "Nobody's picking up," he said. "It's 3:30 on a Tuesday. People are at work." Mrs. Thornton crossed her arms. "How convenient." Michael looked at her. Really looked. "You've already decided," he said quietly. "Haven't you? No matter what I do, no matter what I show you, you decided the minute I walked through that door. I decided to follow protocol. You decided I didn't belong here. You looked at me and made a judgment. And now you're hiding behind protocol because it's easier than admitting what this really is." "And what is this exactly?" Michael didn't answer. He didn't have to. Everyone in that lobby knew. The silence stretched. Someone's phone chirped. A child laughed somewhere down the hall. Not Emma. Someone else. And the sound felt wrong, out of place, like sunshine during a funeral. Collins cleared his throat. "Mr. Brennan, I'm sorry, but without verification I can't force them to release the child to you. If you want, you can file a complaint. A complaint. Or contact a lawyer, or wait until someone at the school can access the old system records." "How long will that take?" Collins looked at Mrs. Thornton. She shrugged. "It is looking into it. Could be hours. Could be tomorrow." "Tomorrow?" Michael's voice cracked on the word. "My daughter is supposed to stay here overnight because your system crashed. She'll be placed in after-school care, supervised, safe. She'll be terrified. She'll think I abandoned her." "That's not my concern." Michael stared at her. 3 words. That's not my concern. His daughter's fear, his daughter's heartbreak, his daughter lying awake tonight in some cold supervision room, crying, wondering why her daddy didn't come. Not her concern. Something shifted in Michael's chest. Something cold and hard. He'd been patient. He'd been calm. He'd played by their rules, answered their questions, submitted to their suspicion. No more. He pulled out his phone again. Not to call a neighbor this time. This time he called someone else. "Nia," he said quietly. "I need you." The voice on the other end was crisp, professional. "Michael, what's happening?" "I'm at Emma's school. They won't let me pick her up. They're saying I'm not in the system. They called the police." A pause. When Nia spoke again, her voice was ice. "They did what?" "I need you to activate Protocol Guardian." Another pause, longer this time. "Michael, are you sure that's going to expose everything?" He looked at Mrs. Thornton, at the officers, at the lobby full of watching parents. "I'm sure." "Understood. Give me 90 seconds." Michael lowered the phone. Collins frowned. "Sir, who was that?" Michael didn't answer. He just waited. 90 seconds. In 90 seconds, everything was going to change. And Mrs. Victoria Thornton had no idea what was coming. The seconds crawled. Michael stood perfectly still, phone in his hand, watching Mrs. Thornton shuffle papers at the security desk like nothing had happened. Like his world wasn't crumbling. Like his daughter wasn't sobbing somewhere behind those walls. Officer Collins shifted his weight. "Sir, I'm going to need you to..." "Wait." The word came out quiet, but something in Michael's tone made Collins stop. "Just wait." 45 seconds had passed. Maybe 50. Mrs. Thornton looked up, irritation flashing across her face. "Wait for what exactly?" "Your imaginary lawyer. Some miracle that proves you're not wasting everyone's time." Michael didn't respond. He was thinking about Sarah again. About the way she used to handle situations like this with grace, with patience, with that disarming smile that could melt even the coldest bureaucrat. She would have talked her way through this. She would have found common ground, cracked a joke, turned enemies into allies. But Sarah was gone. And Michael had never been the charming one. He was the quiet one, the builder, the man who worked with his hands and let his results speak louder than words. 60 seconds. His phone buzzed. Nia's voice came through clear and controlled. "Protocol Guardian is active. I'm syncing with the school's network now. Their security system is interesting. Lot of holes." "Can you get me in?" "I can do better than that. Stand by." Mrs. Thornton's computer made a sound. A soft chime. She glanced at it, frowned, typed something. Another chime. Then another. "What on earth?" She clicked her mouse rapidly. "The system is updating. In the middle of the day. This is completely..." Her screen flickered. Then every screen in the lobby flickered. The digital welcome board. The security monitors. The check-in tablets at the front desk. All of them went dark for half a second, then came back to life. But now they showed something different. A name. Brennan, Michael J. Primary Guardian, Emma Brennan, Grade 3. The text scrolled across every screen, repeating undeniable. Mrs. Thornton's face went pale. This is a hack. Someone is hacking our system." "Check your database," Michael said calmly. "Pull up Emma Brennan's file. Look at the Guardian information." "I'm not going to..." "Pull it up." Something in his voice made her comply. Her fingers trembled as she typed. She clicked. She stared. That's not possible." "What does it say?" She didn't answer. Officer Reyes leaned over her shoulder. His eyebrows shot up. "Michael James Brennan, primary and sole guardian. Listed since September 2021. Emergency contact. Authorized for pickup. Medical decision authority." He looked at Michael. "It's all here." Mrs. Thornton shook her head violently. "No. No, this was tampered with. He did something. He has people on the inside." "Ma'am." Reyes straightened. "The record shows he's been in this system for 3 years. With full authorization. Whatever happened earlier, whatever glitch removed him temporarily, this is the original data. I don't believe it." "You don't have to believe it. It's right there in black and white." The lobby had gone silent. Parents were watching now. Really watching. Some had stopped recording, but others had pulled out their phones, capturing every moment. Collins turned to Michael. "Mr. Brennan, it looks like there was a system error. On behalf of the department, I apologize for the confusion." "Confusion?" Michael tasted the word. Bitter. "My daughter has been crying for over half an hour. I've been treated like a criminal in front of dozens of witnesses. That's not confusion, officer. That's something else entirely." Collins had the decency to look uncomfortable. Mrs. Thornton wasn't finished. She stepped around the desk, pointing at Michael's chest. "I don't care what that screen says. Something is wrong here. Men don't just show up in rags, and expect to waltz into a school. Protocol exists for a reason. I was doing my job. Your job. Michael stepped closer. Not threatening, just close enough that she couldn't look away. Your job was to protect my daughter. Instead, you terrorized her. You made her watch her father get humiliated. You made her think I wasn't coming. I had no way of knowing. You had every way of knowing. The guards knew me. The other parents knew me. Everyone in this building has seen me 100 times. But you looked at my clothes, and you made a decision. You decided I was the threat. That was your choice. Not protocol. You. Mrs. Thornton's mouth opened, but nothing came out. Michael turned to the officers. I want to see my daughter. Now. Collins nodded. Of course. Ma'am, can you have someone bring Emma Brennan to the lobby? Mrs. Thornton didn't move. Ma'am? Fine. The word came out like she was spitting glass. She picked up her radio. Bring Emma Brennan to the front. Her father is here. Michael waited. The next 90 seconds were the longest of his life. He heard her before he saw her. Small footsteps running on polished floors. Getting closer. Faster. Then the doors burst open. Emma flew through them like a small hurricane, tears still wet on her face hair, falling out of her ponytail shoes untied. She didn't stop at the threshold. She didn't hesitate. She ran straight into Michael's arms. Daddy? He caught her, lifted her, held her so tight he could feel her heart beating against his chest. I'm here, baby. I'm here. They wouldn't let you in. They said you weren't my daddy. They said I had to wait. I was so scared, Daddy. I was so scared. I know, sweetheart. But I'm here now. I've got you. She buried her face in his neck, sobbing. Her small hands gripped his hoodie like she was afraid he might disappear. Michael closed his eyes. This was all that mattered. Not the humiliation. Not the accusations. Not the crowd of strangers watching them like a spectacle. Just this. His daughter in his arms. Safe. Home. The lobby was silent. Even Mrs. Thornton had stopped talking. There was something about a child's raw, desperate love that made words feel small. Michael held Emma for a long time. Let her cry. Let her grip him. Let her feel safe again. Finally, she lifted her head. Her eyes were red and puffy, but some of the fear had faded. Can we go home now, Daddy? Yeah, baby. We can go home. He started toward the door. Mr. Brennan? He stopped, turned. Mrs. Thornton stood behind the security desk, arms crossed, chin high. There was no apology in her eyes, no remorse, just defiance. This isn't over, she said. I'll be filing a formal report about this incident, about the system breach, about your threatening behavior. Threatening behavior. You intimidated me. You intimidated my staff, and whoever hacked our system committed a federal crime. Michael stared at her. Then he laughed. Not loud, not cruel, just tired, exhausted. File whatever you want. He turned and walked toward the door. You think you can just walk away? Her voice rose shrill now, desperate to reclaim some fragment of control. You think money buys you immunity? I know your type. You think you're above the rules. Above consequences. But I promise you. Michael stopped at the threshold. He didn't turn around. He spoke over his shoulder, voice low but clear enough to carry. You don't know anything about me. You don't know where I came from. You don't know what I've built. You don't know what I've lost. He paused. But you're about to find out. He walked out the door with Emma still in his arms. Behind him, the lobby erupted into whispers. Michael didn't look back. The afternoon sun hit Michael's face as he stepped outside. Emma still clutching his neck. The parking lot was fuller now. Parents milled around their cars, some pretending not to stare, others openly watching. He didn't care. He walked toward his old truck, each step feeling heavier than the last. The adrenaline was fading. In its place was something deeper, older, The kind of exhaustion that settles into your bones. Daddy. Emma's voice was small against his shoulder. Yeah, baby. Why were they so mean to you? Michael stopped walking. He looked at his daughter, her tear-stained face, her innocent eyes, the confusion written across her features. How do you explain prejudice to an 8-year-old? How do you tell her that some people look at you and see something less than human? He'd always known this day would come. He just thought he'd have more time. Some people, he said slowly, make decisions about others before they know them. They look at how someone dresses or where they come from or what kind of car they drive and they think they know everything. They don't, but they act like they do. That's not fair. No, it's not. Mrs. Thornton was wrong. You're my daddy. The best daddy. Michael felt something crack in his chest. He hugged her tighter. I love you, Em. I love you too, Daddy. She pulled back and looked at him seriously. Are you going to be in trouble because of what happened? No, sweetheart, I'm not going to be in trouble. But that lady said she was going to file a report. I don't know what that means, but it sounded bad. Michael smiled. It felt strange on his face. Don't worry about that. Let's just go home. Okay, I'll make your favorite dinner. Mac and cheese with the little hot dogs cut up in it. Emma's face brightened slightly. With the twisty noodles. With the twisty noodles. They reached the truck. Michael opened the passenger door and set Emma inside, buckling her seatbelt carefully. She looked so small in the worn leather seat. So fragile. He walked around to the driver's side and climbed in. The engine rattled to life on the second try. Daddy. Yeah. Why do you drive this old truck? My friend Jessica's dad says we should get a new car. Michael pulled out of the parking space, navigating toward the exit. This truck is special. Because it's old. Because Mommy picked it out. Emma went quiet. Michael glanced at her. She was looking down at her hands, fidgeting with a loose thread on her school uniform. I think about Mommy sometimes, she said quietly. Is that okay? Of course it's okay, baby. I think about her too. Every day. Do you think she can see us from heaven? Michael's throat tightened. I think so. I hope so. I hope she saw you today. When you came to get me. When you didn't give up, even though they were mean. Emma looked up at him, eyes wet again. I think she would be really proud. For a moment Michael couldn't speak. The road blurred in front of him. Thank you, sweetheart, he managed. That means more than you know. They drove in silence for a while. The school disappeared in the rearview mirror. The streets of their neighborhood rolled past quiet suburban normal, like nothing had happened. But something had happened, something that couldn't be undone. Michael's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen. NIA 23 videos uploaded, 12 news inquiries, story trending locally. Want me to manage or let it run? He typed back with one hand. Let it run. Another buzz, understood. Also, I pulled the school's donor records. Thought you should know. Mrs. Thornton was hired 6 weeks ago. No background in education. Previously worked for a property management company. Interesting hire for a school. Michael frowned. That was interesting. But it could wait. Right now, all he wanted was to get home. To make dinner for his daughter. To read her a story and tuck her in and pretend for one night that the world wasn't as ugly as it sometimes seemed. They pulled into the driveway 15 minutes later. The house wasn't large, 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a small yard, with a swing set Michael had built himself. Nothing like the mansions in some of the fancier neighborhoods. Nothing like what he could afford if he wanted to. But this was where Sarah had chosen. This was where Emma had taken her first steps. This was home. Emma was out of the truck before he'd even killed the engine. She ran to the front door, bouncing on her heels. The trauma of the afternoon already fading into the background, the way only children's minds can manage. Michael followed slowly. He unlocked the door. Emma shot inside, heading straight for her room to change out of her uniform. He could hear her chattering to herself something about showing her stuffed animals what happened at school. Michael stood in the doorway for a moment. The house was quiet except for Emma's distant voice. The late afternoon light slanted through the windows. Everything looked exactly the same as it had this morning. But it wasn't the same. He walked to the kitchen, opened the refrigerator, stared at its contents without really seeing them. His mind was elsewhere. Mrs. Thornton's face, the way she'd looked at him, the absolute certainty in her eyes that he didn't belong. He'd seen that look before, too many times to count. At 31, he'd pitched his first company to a room full of investors. One of them, a silver-haired man in a $3,000 suit, had looked him up and down and said, "Son, you sure you're in the right room? The janitorial staff meeting is down the hall." The room had laughed. Michael had smiled, pulled out his laptop, and delivered the presentation anyway. 3 years later, he'd bought that man's company in a hostile takeover. Sat in his office in his chair, looked him in the eye and said, "I just wanted to let you know the janitorial staff sends their regards." At 34, he'd tried to buy Sarah's engagement ring from a high-end jeweler. The salesperson had followed him around the store like he was going to steal something. When he'd asked to see a particular diamond 2.5 carats princess cut, she'd laughed and suggested he try the costume jewelry section next door. He'd bought the ring anyway, from a different store, a better store, and he'd made sure to send a copy of the receipt to the first store's corporate office, along with a letter explaining exactly why they'd lost a $50,000 sale. At 38, he'd shown up to Emma's first day of kindergarten. A mother had pulled her child away from him on the playground, whispering loudly, "We don't talk to strangers, honey." He'd wanted to say something, to explain that he wasn't a stranger, he was a parent, he belonged here just as much as anyone else. But he'd stayed quiet, because making a scene wouldn't help Emma, wouldn't help anyone. Silence. Always silence. Sometimes he wondered if his silence made things easier or harder. If speaking up would change minds or just confirm what they already believed. He didn't know anymore. His phone buzzed again. NIA. The story just got picked up by a national outlet. They're running it under the headline, "Single Dad Humiliated at Elite School, Internet Outraged." Comments are flooding in. Mostly supportive. Some are asking who you are. What do you want me to tell them? Michael read the message twice. What did he want to tell them? For years he'd kept his success quiet. The donations were anonymous. The company was run through layers of subsidiaries and holding groups. His name appeared on almost nothing. Privacy, he'd told himself. Protection for Emma. But maybe it was something else too. Maybe he was tired of being measured. Tired of people deciding he was only worth respecting once they knew his net worth. If I have to show you my bank account to earn basic human decency, he'd thought more than once, then your decency isn't worth much. But now the world was watching. The story was spreading. And for the first time, Michael wondered if silence was still the right choice. He typed back, "Nothing yet. Let me think." He put the phone down and started pulling ingredients from the refrigerator. Pasta, cheese, hot dogs. Emma's comfort food. 30 minutes later, they were sitting at the kitchen table together. Emma had changed into her favorite pajamas, the ones with the little rockets on them, even though it was only 5 o'clock. She was talking about her day before the incident, about her friend Jake and how they'd built a tower out of blocks during recess, and how Mrs. Patterson had said it was the tallest tower anyone had ever built, probably in the whole world. Michael listened, nodded, asked questions. This was what mattered. This moment. This ordinary, precious, irreplaceable moment. The phone buzzed again, and again, and again. He ignored it. "Daddy? Yeah? Are you sad?" Michael looked at his daughter. She was watching him with those big, serious eyes, Sarah's eyes. "A little," he admitted. "But being with you makes it better. Because I'm awesome." He laughed. Really laughed. "Yeah, baby. Because you're awesome." She grinned, a smear of cheese sauce on her chin. I know. They finished dinner. Michael cleaned the dishes while Emma watched her favorite cartoon in the living room. The normalcy of it felt fragile, like something that could shatter if he looked at it too hard. At 7 o'clock, he carried her upstairs for bedtime. They did the usual routine, teeth brushed, face washed, story read. Tonight, it was the one about the rabbit and the moon, Emma's favorite. Daddy, she murmured as he tucked the blanket around her. Yeah. You're never gonna leave me, right? Like Mommy did. The question hit him like a physical blow. Oh, sweetheart. He sat on the edge of the bed, took her small hand in his. Mommy didn't want to leave. She loved you so much. She fought so hard to stay, but sometimes people get sick and the doctors can't fix them. It's not fair. It's never fair. But I promise you I will always be here, no matter what. Even if mean ladies try to stop you? Even then, nobody's going to stop me from being your dad. Not ever. She nodded, satisfied. Her eyes were already closing. I love you, Daddy. I love you too, baby. To the moon and back. To the moon and back, she repeated sleepily. He kissed her forehead, turned on the nightlight, and slipped out of the room. Then he went downstairs, sat on the couch in the dark, and finally let himself feel everything he'd been holding back. The humiliation, the rage, the helplessness of standing there while his daughter screamed for him through a window. He put his head in his hands. For 3 years, he'd done everything right. Been the best father he knew how to be. Built a life, built a career, built something he thought could protect Emma from the ugliness of the world. But you can't protect someone from everything. You can't shield them from people who look at them and see less. His phone was still buzzing on the counter. He walked over, picked it up, scrolled through the notifications. The story had exploded. Major outlets were covering it now. His name, his real name, was starting to surface. Someone had connected the dots. NIA, it's out. Who you are, what you've built. The donations to the school. Everything. What do you want to do? Michael stared at the message for a long time. Then he typed back. Set up a press conference. Tomorrow morning. It's time people know the truth. He hit send. No more silence. Not anymore. Michael didn't sleep that night. He sat in the living room until well past midnight, watching the story spread across the internet like wildfire. Every few minutes, Naya sent another update. Another news outlet picking up the story. Another viral clip. Another wave of comments most supportive. Some cruel, all of them talking about him like he was a character in a movie, instead of a man who just wanted to pick up his daughter from school. By 2 a.m., his name was everywhere. Michael Brennan, tech entrepreneur, net worth estimated at $340 million. The headlines varied, but the core facts were the same. Single father, self-made success, anonymous donor to dozens of schools and community programs across the state. And now, the man who'd been humiliated at the gates of a school he'd personally funded to the tune of $12 million. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. Michael closed his laptop around 3 a.m. and finally climbed the stairs to bed. He checked on Emma first, still sleeping, one arm wrapped around her stuffed rabbit, breathing slow and peaceful. She had no idea that by morning their lives would be different. He lay in bed staring at the ceiling until dawn broke through the curtains. At 6:30, his phone rang. Nia. The press conference is set for 10 a.m., she said without preamble. I've booked a conference room at the Marriott downtown. 37 media outlets have confirmed attendance. There are already reporters camped outside your house. Michael walked to the window and pulled back the curtain. Sure enough, 3 news vans were parked on the street. A handful of people with cameras milled around on the sidewalk. Great. I can send a car around back if you want to avoid them. No, I'll walk out the front door. Let them see me. A pause. Michael, are you sure about this? Once you do this press conference, there's no going back. Your privacy. My privacy ended yesterday when they put their hands on me in front of my daughter." Nia was quiet for a moment. Then, "What do you want to say?" Michael thought about it. He'd been thinking about it all night. "The truth," he said finally. "Just the truth." He hung up and went to wake Emma. She was confused at first, then excited when he explained that Grandma and Grandpa were flying in from Florida to spend a few days with her. He'd called them at 5 a.m., apologized for the hour, and asked if they could catch the first flight out. They hadn't asked questions. They'd just said yes. By 8 a.m., Michael's parents were walking through the front door. His mother Linda pulled him into a fierce hug the moment she saw him. His father Robert clasped his shoulder and looked him in the eye. "We saw the videos," Robert said quietly. "All of them. I'm sorry you had to see that." "Don't apologize. You didn't do anything wrong." Robert's jaw tightened. "That woman, though, she's got some answering to do." Linda had already scooped Emma up and was carrying her toward the kitchen, promising pancakes and cartoons and whatever else her heart desired. The little girl's laughter echoed through the house. Michael watched them go. Some of the weight on his shoulders lifted just slightly. "I have to go do something," he told his father. "I might be gone most of the day." "We've got her. Go do what you need to do." Michael nodded. He grabbed his jacket, not the hoodie this time, but a simple navy blazer over a white shirt. Still no tie, still no pretense. He walked out the front door. The cameras started clicking immediately. Reporters shouted questions from the sidewalk. "Mr. Brennan, can you tell us what happened yesterday?" "Michael, are you planning to sue the school? How do you feel about Mrs. Thornton's comments?" Michael didn't answer. He walked to his truck, climbed in, and drove away. The conference room at the Marriott was packed. Nia had done her job well. 37 outlets had confirmed, but it looked like twice that many had shown up. Camera crews jostled for position. Reporters clutched notebooks and recorders. The energy in the room was electric hungry. Michael stood in a small anteroom behind the stage watching through a crack in the door. Nia appeared beside him. She was a small woman, barely 5'2", with sharp eyes and a sharper mind. She'd been his right hand for almost a decade. "You ready?" "No." "Good. Honest answers are better anyway." She handed him a bottle of water. "Remember, you don't have to answer anything you don't want to. You're not on trial here." "Feels like I am." "That's because you've spent your whole life being judged by people who don't know you. Today, you get to tell them who you are. On your terms." Michael took a breath, then another. "Okay, let's do this." He walked through the door and onto the small stage. The room erupted with camera flashes and shouted questions. He held up a hand, and gradually the noise subsided. He stood at the podium. No notes, no script, just him. "My name is Michael Brennan," he began. "Most of you didn't know that name until yesterday. I preferred it that way. I've spent the last 15 years building companies, creating jobs, and giving back to communities that helped shape who I am. I did most of it quietly, anonymously, because I believed that charity isn't about recognition, it's about impact." The room was silent now, every eye fixed on him. "Yesterday, I went to pick up my daughter from school. Her name is Emma. She's 8 years old. Her mother, my wife Sarah, passed away 3 years ago from cancer. Since then, it's been just the two of us. I drop her off every morning. I pick her up every afternoon. That's been our routine for 3 years." He paused. His throat felt tight, but he pushed through. "Yesterday, a woman named Victoria Thornton decided I didn't belong at that school. She looked at my clothes, jeans, a hoodie, work boots, and she made a judgment. She decided I was a threat. She called security. She called the police. She kept me from my daughter while Emma cried and screamed for me through a window." A murmur rippled through the crowd. "What Mrs. Thornton didn't know, what she didn't bother to find out, is that I am the largest single donor in that school's history. $12 million. Anonymous. I funded the entire STEM wing. I funded scholarships for 37 students who couldn't otherwise afford tuition. I did it because my daughter loves science and I wanted other kids to have the same opportunities she has. He let that sink in. Mrs. Thornton called me a fraud, a con artist, a stranger. She said I didn't belong. She said men like me don't just walk in. His voice hardened. Men like me. I want you to think about what that means. Because I've heard it my whole life. At car dealerships, at restaurants, at hospitals, at my own daughter's playground. Men like me. It's a phrase designed to put you in your place. To remind you that no matter what you achieve, no matter what you build, no matter how much you give, some people will always see you as less than. A reporter tried to interrupt with a question. Michael held up his hand. I'm not finished. The room went quiet again. I could have said something yesterday. I could have told Mrs. Thornton exactly who I was. Pulled up my bank statements, shown her the donation receipts. Made her feel small the way she tried to make me feel small, but I didn't. You know why? He looked directly into the cameras. Because I shouldn't have to. No parent should have to prove their net worth to pick up their child. No father should have to justify his existence to a stranger with a clipboard. Respect isn't something you earn by showing your bank account. It's something every human being deserves regardless of what they're wearing, or what car they drive, or how much money they have. He paused, gathering himself. My wife used to say something. She said, the measure of a person isn't what they have. It's how they treat people who have nothing. Yesterday, Mrs. Thornton thought I had nothing. And she treated me accordingly. That tells you everything you need to know about her character. A hand shot up in the crowd. Michael nodded. Mr. Brennan, are you planning to take legal action against the school? I'm considering all options, but legal action isn't my priority right now. My priority is my daughter, making sure she feels safe, making sure she understands that what happened yesterday wasn't her fault and wasn't normal. Another hand. What would you say to Mrs. Thornton if she were here right now? Michael thought about it. I'd say that I feel sorry for her. Not because of what's coming, and something is coming, make no mistake, but because she's spent her life judging books by their covers. She's probably missed out on knowing some incredible people because they didn't fit her idea of what success looks like. That's a sad way to live. Do you think this was racially motivated? Michael hesitated. This was the question he'd been dreading. I'm a white man, he said slowly. So I can't speak to the experience of people of color who face this kind of treatment every single day, often much worse than what I experienced. What I can say is that prejudice comes in many forms. Yesterday it was about class, about appearance, about assumptions. But the root is the same. It's about deciding someone is less than human based on surface-level judgments. And that's always wrong. Always. More hands went up, more questions. Michael answered them as honestly as he could. Yes, he would be pulling his funding from the school unless significant changes were made. No, he didn't blame the individual security guards, many of whom had tried to stand up for him. Yes, he had video evidence of everything that happened. No, he wouldn't be releasing his daughter's name or image to the press. She was 8 years old. She deserved privacy. The press conference lasted almost an hour. By the end, Michael was exhausted, wrung out, empty. But something had shifted. He could feel it. The weight he'd been carrying for years, the weight of staying silent, of swallowing his anger, of letting indignities pass without comment, had lifted slightly. He'd spoken his truth, finally. Naya met him backstage. Her expression was unreadable. How'd I do? You just gave the most watched press conference of the year, she said. It's already trending globally. The school's phone lines have crashed. Mrs. Thornton's name is the #1 search on Google. That's not what I asked. Naya's face softened. You did good, Michael. Really good. Sarah would be proud. He nodded, not trusting his voice. His phone buzzed. A text from his mother. Emma wants to know when you're coming home. She says she has something to show you. Very important. With a heart emoji. Michael smiled. The first real smile in what felt like days. "I need to go home," he said. "Go, I'll handle things here." Michael drove back through streets that felt different now. Reporters still camped outside his house, but they seemed smaller somehow, less intimidating. He parked in the driveway and walked past them without a word. Inside, Emma was waiting. She grabbed his hand the moment he walked through the door and dragged him to the kitchen table. A piece of construction paper lay there covered in crayon drawings. "I made this for you, Daddy." Michael looked at it. It was a picture of two figures, one big one, small, holding hands. Above them a yellow sun smiled down. In wobbly letters across the top, Emma had written, "My daddy is the best daddy." His eyes burned. "It's beautiful, sweetheart. Grandma helped me spell beautiful, but I did all the drawing myself. I can tell, you're a real artist." Emma beamed. Then her face grew serious. "Daddy, there were people outside with cameras. Grandpa said they want to talk to you. Are you famous now?" Michael crouched down to her level. "Something happened at your school. People found out about it, and now they're interested in our family. But that doesn't change anything about us." "Okay. We're still the same. You and me against the world." "You and me against the world," she repeated solemnly. "Like superheroes." "Exactly like superheroes." She hugged him. He held her tight. His mother appeared in the doorway watching them with tears in her eyes. His father stood behind her, one hand on her shoulder. "You did the right thing today," Robert said quietly. "I hope so." "I know so." That press conference that took courage, more than most people have. Michael straightened Emma, still holding his hand. "I just told the truth. Sometimes the truth is the bravest thing you can tell." The rest of the day passed in a blur of normalcy. Michael played board games with Emma. He ate dinner with his parents. He watched his daughter laugh and talk and be her usual irrepressible self. And he thought about how close he'd come to losing this. Not permanently, they never would have kept her from him forever, but in that moment, that terrible, endless moment when she was screaming for him and he couldn't reach her, he never wanted to feel that helpless again. That night, after Emma was asleep, Michael sat on the back porch with his father. The night was cool. Crickets chirped in the darkness. "How are you really doing?" Robert asked. Michael stared out at the yard. The swing set. The garden Sarah had started but never finished. The life they'd built together. "I don't know," he admitted. "Part of me feels like I won something today. Like I finally stood up for myself after years of staying quiet. But another part feels like I lost something too. Privacy. Anonymity. The ability to just be a dad without everyone watching." Robert nodded slowly. "That's the price of speaking out. Once you do it, you can't take it back." "Do you think I made the right call?" His father was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "When you were 12 years old, you came home from school with a black eye. Remember that?" Michael frowned. "Tommy Kendrick. He was picking on a kid half his size. I stepped in. And got punched for it." "Yeah. I remember what you said when I asked you why you did it. You said because somebody had to." Robert turned to look at him. "That's who you are, Michael. You see something wrong and you can't just walk away. You never could. Yesterday something was wrong. Today you did something about it. That's not a mistake. That's character." Michael felt something loosen in his chest. A knot he hadn't even realized was there. "Thanks, Dad." "Don't thank me. Thank your mother. She's the one who raised you right." Robert smiled slightly. "I just provided the stubbornness." They sat in comfortable silence for a while longer. Then Michael's phone buzzed. A text from Nia. "NIA. You need to see this. Now. Sending link." He opened the link. It was a news article just published. The headline made his blood run cold. "Whitmore Academy responds. Mr. Brennan's account is fabricated and defamatory. We will be pursuing legal action." Below it, a statement from the school board, and at the bottom, a quote from Victoria Thornton herself. "I stand by my actions. Mr. Brennan was behaving erratically and refused to follow standard protocols. His claims about donations are unverified and likely fraudulent. We will not be intimidated by wealth or social media mobs." Michael stared at the screen. They were doubling down. After everything, the videos, the system records, the press conference, they were actually doubling down. His father read over his shoulder. "Are they insane?" "Apparently." Robert's expression hardened. "They have no idea who they're dealing with." Michael thought about Sarah, about her final words, about the promise he'd made. Never let anyone make her feel small. He thought about Emma crying through the window, about the security guards grabbing his arm, about Mrs. Thornton's sneer, her absolute certainty that he was nobody. They wanted a fight. Fine, he'd give them a war. He typed a reply to Nia. "Michael, schedule a meeting with the school board, tomorrow. Every member. Non-negotiable." Her response came seconds later. "NIA, already on it." And Michael. They have no idea what's coming. No, they didn't. But they were about to find out. The school board meeting was scheduled for 9 a.m. Michael arrived at 8:45. He'd spent the night preparing. Not with lawyers, though. Nia had 3 of them on standby, but with something more powerful. Evidence. Documents. Records that told a story no amount of spin could erase. The boardroom was on the 3rd floor of the Whitmore Academy Administrative Building. Michael had never been inside before. For all his donations, all his involvement, he'd always operated from the shadows. Anonymous. Invisible. Not anymore. He walked through the front entrance. The receptionist looked up, recognized him immediately. Everyone recognized him now and fumbled for the phone. "Mr. Brennan, I'll let them know you're—" "Don't bother. They know I'm coming." He walked past her desk and headed for the elevator. The 3rd floor was quiet when he stepped off. Too quiet. The kind of quiet that happens when people are holding their breath. A young man in a suit was waiting outside the boardroom doors. He looked nervous. "Mr. Brennan, I'm Tyler, the board's executive assistant. They're ready for you." "Good." Tyler opened the door. Michael walked in. The boardroom was long and narrow, dominated by a polished mahogany table that could seat 20. Today, only 7 chairs were occupied. 6 board members sat on one side, their faces a mix of defiance and anxiety. At the head of the table sat Chairman Harold Pierce, a silver-haired man in his 60s with the kind of permanent tan that spoke of golf courses and yacht clubs. And at the far end, sitting alone, was Victoria Thornton. She looked different than she had 2 days ago. Smaller somehow. The sharp confidence had dulled. Her eyes darted around the room, landing anywhere except on Michael. Pierce stood as Michael entered. He didn't extend his hand. "Mr. Brennan, thank you for coming. Please have a seat." Michael didn't sit. He stood at the opposite end of the table, facing all of them. "I'll stand." Pierce's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "Very well. I assume you've seen our statement." "I have." "Then you understand our position. We believe there are significant discrepancies in your account of the incident. Mrs. Thornton has provided her own testimony which contradicts many of your claims." "I'm sure she has." Thornton shifted in her seat but said nothing. Pierce continued. "We've asked you here today to discuss a path forward. One that avoids further public conflict and allows all parties to move on with dignity." Dignity. Michael let the word hang in the air. That's an interesting choice of words coming from this room. "Mr. Brennan, you called me a liar, publicly. You said my account was fabricated. You threatened to sue me for defamation." Michael's voice was calm, but there was steel underneath. "And now you want to talk about dignity." One of the board members, a woman with severe features and a pearl necklace, leaned forward. "We're not here to relitigate the incident, Mr. Brennan. We're here to find a resolution." "A resolution?" Michael almost laughed. Let me tell you what a resolution looks like from where I'm standing. 2 days ago, I came to this school to pick up my daughter. I've done it every single day for 3 years. And I was treated like a criminal. I was grabbed. I was threatened. I was humiliated in front of my child while she screamed for me through a window. That's not a discrepancy. That's not a difference of opinion. That's what happened. And every single moment of it is on video. Silence. Pierce cleared his throat. We've reviewed some of the footage. Some. The footage that's been made public. And while we acknowledge that the situation could have been handled more diplomatically, we believe Mrs. Thornton was acting within her authority as Director of Security. Her authority. Michael turned to look at Thornton directly. She flinched. Tell me about your authority, Mrs. Thornton. Tell me about the training you received, the protocols you followed, the judgment calls you made. Thornton's voice came out thin. I was following procedure. The system showed you weren't registered. I had no way of knowing. You had every way of knowing. The security guards knew me. They told you they knew me. You ignored them. I couldn't verify. You didn't want to verify. You looked at me and you made a decision. You decided I was a threat because of what I was wearing, because I drove an old truck, because I didn't look like your idea of a parent at this school. That's not— Don't. Michael's voice sharpened. Don't lie to me. Not here. Not now. I saw your face. I heard your words. Men like you don't just walk in. That's what you said. What did you mean by that? Mrs. Thornton, what kind of men were you talking about? Thornton's face went red. Her mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. Pierce intervened. Mr. Brennan, this line of questioning isn't productive. Isn't it? Because I think it goes to the heart of what happened. I think Mrs. Thornton made an assumption based on my appearance, and then she doubled down on that assumption even when the evidence contradicted her. Even when my daughter was crying. Even when your own staff tried to tell her she was wrong. The woman with the pearl spoke again. We can't know what was in Mrs. Thornton's mind. I don't need to know what was in her mind. I know what came out of her mouth. And so does everyone else. Because it's all on video. Millions of people have watched her call me a fraud, a con artist, a stranger at my own daughter's school. Michael paused. A school, by the way, that I have personally funded to the tune of $12 million. Another silence, heavier this time. Pierce shifted uncomfortably. We're aware of your contributions. Are you? Because according to your public statement, my donation claims are unverified and likely fraudulent. Would you like to verify them now? Michael reached into his jacket and pulled out a folder. He slid it across the table toward Pierce. Go ahead. Open it. Pierce hesitated, then opened the folder. His face changed as he read. These are wire transfer records. $12 million. Donated over the past 3 years. Every penny documented. And here, Michael pulled out another folder. Are the signed acknowledgement letters from this board. Thank you letters for my anonymous contribution. Signed by you, Mr. Pierce? Pierce's face had gone pale. I'm sure you'll also find records of the 37 scholarships I funded, the science equipment I purchased, the teacher salaries I supplemented when your budget fell short. Michael's voice was ice. Unverified and likely fraudulent. That's what you said about me, in public, to the entire world. The room was dead silent. Michael let it stretch. Let them feel the weight of their mistake. Finally, one of the board members, a younger man who'd been quiet until now, spoke up. Mr. Brennan, I think I speak for everyone when I say we deeply regret the way this situation has unfolded. The statement we released was premature. It was made in haste without full knowledge of the facts. Without full knowledge. Michael nodded slowly. You released a statement calling me a liar and threatening legal action without full knowledge of the facts. Is that how this board typically operates? No one answered. Let me tell you what I know, Michael continued. I know that Mrs. Thornton was hired 6 weeks ago. I know that her background is in property management, not education or child safety. I know that she has no formal training in security protocols and that her hiring was pushed through by this board without the standard vetting process. Pierce's head snapped up. How do you know that? I know a lot of things, Mr. Pierce. I make it my business to know things. For example, I know that Whitmore Academy has been running a deficit for the past 2 years. I know that enrollment is down 15%. I know that 3 board members have significant personal investments in a real estate development company that's been trying to acquire this property for the past 18 months. The room went very, very still. I know, Michael said quietly, that there have been discussions about selling the school, about closing it down, about turning it into condominiums. One of the board members, a heavy man with a red face, slammed his palm on the table. That's confidential information. How did you? It doesn't matter how I got it. What matters is that it's true. And what matters is that while you've been planning to sell this school out from under the families who depend on it, you've also been taking my money. $12 million. To keep the lights on. To maintain the illusion that everything is fine. Pierce found his voice. Mr. Brennan, whatever you think you know about our internal discussions, I don't think, I know. I have emails. I have meeting minutes. I have everything. Michael leaned forward, palms flat on the table. So let's stop pretending this is about Mrs. Thornton and her protocols. This is about a board that's been deceiving its families, mismanaging its finances, and preparing to abandon its mission. Mrs. Thornton is just a symptom. You're the disease. The heavy man stood up, face purple with rage. You can't talk to us like this. We'll sue you for defamation. Try it. Michael's voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. I have more lawyers than you have board members. I have more money than this school has seen in its entire existence. And I have the truth on my side. So please try it. I'm begging you. The man sat back down. Pierce held up his hands. Let's everyone calm down. Mr. Brennan, clearly there have been misunderstandings on both sides. There's been no misunderstanding on my side. I understood exactly what happened the moment Mrs. Thornton looked at me like I was dirt on her shoe. I understood when she called security. I understood when she called the police. I understood when my daughter screamed for me and no one listened. Michael turned to face Thornton again. She was crying now, tears streaming silently down her face. I want you to know something, he said to her. I don't hate you. I pity you. Because you had a choice. When those guards told you they knew me, you could have listened. When the system confirmed my identity, you could have apologized. When my daughter was crying, you could have shown an ounce of basic human compassion. But you didn't. You chose pride over decency. You chose assumption over truth. And now you're going to live with the consequences of that choice for the rest of your life. Thornton's voice came out as a whisper. I'm sorry. I know you are. But sorry doesn't undo what my daughter experienced. Sorry doesn't erase the trauma of watching her father be treated like a criminal. Sorry is just a word. Michael paused. What matters now is what happens next. Pierce jumped in, eager to steer towards something constructive. What do you want, Mr. Brennan? What would it take to resolve this? Michael straightened. He'd been waiting for this question. First, Mrs. Thornton's immediate termination. Not suspension. Termination. With a public acknowledgement that her actions were wrong and that this school does not tolerate discrimination of any kind. Thornton made a small sound. No one looked at her. Second, the 2 security guards who were suspended for defending me, Frank and Danny. I want them reinstated immediately. With back pay. And a formal apology from this board. Pierce nodded slowly. That can be arranged. Third, I want a complete overhaul of your security protocols. Independent review. New training. New standards. I want parents to be treated with respect when they walk through those doors, regardless of what they're wearing or what they drive. Reasonable. Fourth, I want the board to issue a public retraction of your statement. A full apology. No hedging, no qualifications. You called me a liar. You need to publicly acknowledge that you were wrong. Pierce's jaw tightened, but he nodded. And fifth, Michael paused. This was the one that mattered most. I want the sale discussions to end. Immediately. This school stays open. This school stays a school. If you can't make the finances work, I'll help you make them work. But you don't get to take money from families for tuition and then sell their children's futures out from under them. Silence. The heavy man spoke first. That's not something we can just agree to. There are financial realities. I'm aware of your financial realities. I'm also aware that I've personally kept this school afloat for 3 years. So here's a new financial reality for you. Either you commit to keeping this school open and running it properly, or I pull my funding and go public with everything I know. Your deficit, your mismanagement, your secret negotiations, all of it. He looked around the table, meeting each pair of eyes in turn. Choose. The board members exchanged glances. Some looked terrified. Others looked resigned. The woman with the pearls was already nodding slowly, calculating the odds. Pierce cleared his throat. We'll need to discuss this among ourselves. No. You decide now. In this room. In front of me. Michael checked his watch. You have 5 minutes. The next 5 minutes were the longest of Michael's life. He stood there silent while the board whispered among themselves. He could hear fragments. No choice. Can't afford. Public relations nightmare. He has everything. Finally, Pierce stood. Mr. Brennan, the board has reached a decision. Michael waited. We accept your terms. All of them. Michael let out a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. Mrs. Thornton's employment will be terminated effective immediately. The security guards will be reinstated with full back pay. We will implement an independent review of all security protocols. We will issue a public retraction and apology, and we will formally end all discussions regarding the sale of the school. The heavy man looked like he wanted to object, but a sharp look from Pierce silenced him. Pierce continued. In return, we ask that you consider continuing your support of Whitmore Academy. Not because we deserve it, but because the children here deserve a chance. They deserve better than what we've given them. And with your help we can do better. Michael was quiet for a moment. He thought about Emma, about the science wing she loved, about her friends, her teachers, the community she'd built here over 3 years. He thought about Sarah, about what she would want. I'll continue my support, he said finally. But I want a seat on this board. Not honorary. Voting. I want to make sure these promises are kept. Pierce hesitated only a moment before nodding. Done. Michael extended his hand. Pierce shook it. One more thing, Michael said, still gripping Pierce's hand. If anything like this ever happens again to any parent for any reason, I won't come back to negotiate. I'll come back to destroy. Are we clear? Pierce's face was pale, but he nodded. Crystal clear. Michael released his hand and turned to leave. At the door he paused, looked back at Victoria Thornton still sitting at the far end of the table, tears drying on her face. For what it's worth, he said, I hope you find something better. Something that doesn't require you to judge people by their clothes. Everyone deserves a second chance. She didn't respond. She just stared at the table broken. Michael walked out. The hallway was empty. His footsteps echoed on the marble floor. He felt strange, not triumphant exactly, more like emptied out, like he'd been carrying a weight for so long that now that it was gone, he didn't quite know how to stand. His phone buzzed. NIA. How did it go? Michael? They agreed to everything. NIA. Everything. Michael board seat included. A pause. Then NIA. I've worked with you for 10 years. I've never seen you go this hard at anyone. Michael. They threatened my daughter. NIA. They threatened you. Michael. Same thing. He pushed through the front doors and stepped outside. The sun was bright. Birds were singing. The world looked exactly the same as it had an hour ago. But something had shifted. Something fundamental. For years, Michael had believed that silence was strength, that rising above meant staying quiet, that the best revenge was success lived well. Maybe that was true. Maybe it wasn't. But there was another kind of strength too. The strength to speak. The strength to demand accountability. The strength to stand in a room full of powerful people and tell them they were wrong. Sarah would have understood. She'd always been the brave one. The one who spoke up, who fought back, who refused to be diminished. He'd learned it from her. Even now, 3 years after her death, he was still learning from her. His phone rang. His mother's number. "Hello? Michael, honey, it's Mom. Emma wants to talk to you." A rustling sound. Then Emma's voice, bright and eager. "Daddy, are you done with your meeting?" "I'm done, sweetheart." "Did you win?" Michael smiled. The first real smile of the day. "Yeah, baby, I think I did." "I knew you would. Grandma made cookies and she said I could have 2, but I only ate 1 because I wanted to save 1 for you. It has extra chocolate chips because I told her you like chocolate." Michael's throat tightened. "That sounds perfect. I'll be home soon." "Okay, I love you, Daddy." "I love you too, Em, more than anything." He hung up and stood there for a moment, phone in his hand, sun on his face. Then he walked to his truck, climbed in, and drove home to his daughter. Michael pulled into the driveway 20 minutes later. The news vans were gone. The reporters had moved on to the next story, the next scandal, the next outrage. That was the nature of the cycle. Everything felt permanent until it wasn't. But some things were permanent. Some things stayed with you forever. He sat in the truck for a moment, engine off, hands still on the wheel. The same position he'd been in 4 days ago, before everything changed. Before a woman in a white dress looked at him and decided he was nothing. 4 days. That's all it had been. 4 days since his world cracked open. 4 days since he'd been forced to choose between silence and truth. He'd chosen truth. And now, sitting in his driveway in his old truck, in the ordinary quiet of a Tuesday afternoon, he wondered if he'd ever be able to go back to the way things were. The front door opened. Emma came running out, still in her rocket pajamas, even though it was the middle of the day. She had something clutched in her hand, the cookie she'd saved for him, slightly crumbled from being carried so carefully. Michael stepped out of the truck. "Daddy!" She crashed into him at full speed, wrapping her arms around his legs. He scooped her up, held her close, breathed in the smell of her shampoo and the chocolate on her fingers. "I saved it," she said, holding up the cookie. "See, extra chocolate chips." "I see. It's perfect." "Grandma said you might be sad after your meeting. Are you sad?" Michael looked at his daughter, her bright eyes, her messy hair, the gap in her smile where she'd lost her first tooth last month. "No, sweetheart, I'm not sad." "Good, because I don't like it when you're sad." "I don't like it when I'm sad either." She grinned and shoved the cookie toward his mouth. "Eat it. I've been waiting forever." He took a bite. It was sweet and warm, and tasted like home. "Best cookie I've ever had," he said. Emma beamed. "I know." They walked inside together, hand in hand. His parents were in the kitchen. His mother was washing dishes. His father was reading something on his phone, glasses perched on the end of his nose. They both looked up when Michael entered. "How'd it go?" Robert asked. "They agreed to everything." His mother dried her hands and came over to hug him. "I'm so proud of you, honey." "Thanks, Mom." "What happens now?" Robert asked. Michael sat down at the kitchen table. Emma climbed into his lap, settling in like it was the most natural thing in the world. "Now we move forward. I have a seat on the board. Thornton is gone. The school stays open." He paused. "And I need to figure out how to explain all of this to an 8-year-old. Emma looked up. "Explain what?" Michael exchanged a glance with his parents. This was the conversation he'd been dreading. The one where he had to tell his daughter that the world wasn't always fair, that sometimes people would look at her father and see something less than he was, that she might face the same thing someday. "And do you remember what happened at school when they wouldn't let me pick you up?" Her face clouded. "The mean lady." "Right, the mean lady. Do you know why she was mean?" Emma thought about it. "Because she didn't know you were my daddy." "That's part of it. But there's more." Michael searched for the right words. Sometimes people make decisions about others before they really know them. They look at how someone dresses, or what kind of car they drive, or where they live, and they think they know everything about that person. But they don't. Emma frowned. "That's dumb." "Yeah, it is." "So the mean lady thought you were bad because of your clothes." "Something like that." "But you're not bad. You're the best daddy in the whole world." Michael's chest tightened. "Thank you, sweetheart. But the thing is, Mrs. Thornton didn't know that. She didn't try to know that. She just looked at me and made a decision." "That's not fair." "No, it's not." Emma was quiet for a moment, processing. Then she looked up with fierce determination in her eyes. "If someone is mean to you again, I'll tell them they're wrong. I'll say, 'That's my daddy and he's the best and you're being dumb.'" Michael laughed. He couldn't help it. "I appreciate that, Em. But maybe we can find a nicer word than dumb." "What about incorrect? Mrs. Patterson says that's what you say when someone's wrong, but you want to be polite about it." "Incorrect works." Emma nodded solemnly. "Okay, I'll say that's my daddy, and you're being incorrect." "Perfect." His mother was crying again. She always cried at these moments, the small, ordinary moments where love showed up unexpected and overwhelming. Robert cleared his throat. "You raised a good kid, Michael." "She raised herself mostly. I just tried to keep up." They spent the rest of the afternoon together. Lunch, board games. A movie Emma had seen 100 times but still loved. Normal things. Ordinary things. The things that mattered most. That evening, after Emma was asleep, Michael sat on the back porch again. His parents had gone to bed early, exhausted from the whirlwind of the past few days. The house was quiet. His phone buzzed. A message from Nia. NIA. The school released their statement. Full apology. Full retraction. It's everywhere. Michael opened the link. The headline read, "Whitmore Academy issues formal apology to Michael Brennan. We were wrong." He read through the statement. It was everything he'd demanded. Acknowledgement of wrongdoing. Recognition that Mrs. Thornton's actions were discriminatory and inappropriate. Commitment to new protocols and training. And a specific personal apology to Michael and Emma for the trauma they'd experienced. He should have felt satisfied, vindicated. Instead, he just felt tired. Another message from Nia. The internet is calling you a hero. #justice. For Brennan is trending again. People are sharing your press conference clips. You've become a symbol. A symbol. Michael wasn't sure how he felt about that. He'd never wanted to be a symbol. He just wanted to pick up his daughter from school. But that was the thing about moments like this. They didn't stay contained. They rippled outward, touching lives you'd never know, starting conversations you'd never hear. One father's humiliation became a million people's conversation about respect and dignity and the assumptions we make about each other. Maybe that was worth something. Maybe that was worth all of it. His phone rang. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer. "Hello?" "Mr. Brennan." A woman's voice. Hesitant. Familiar somehow. "Yes." This is Victoria Thornton." Michael's jaw tightened. He almost hung up. But something made him stay on the line. "What do you want?" She took a shaky breath. "I wanted to apologize. Really apologize. Not the kind of apology lawyers write. The real kind. You already apologized. In the boardroom. I know. But that was because I was scared. Because I knew I was going to lose my job. This is different. Her voice cracked. I watched the videos. All of them. I saw myself. I heard what I said. And I can't stop thinking about your daughter's face. The way she was crying for you. Michael closed his eyes. He could still hear Emma's screams. He would probably hear them for the rest of his life. Why did you do it? He asked quietly. Really? Not the protocol excuse. The real reason. A long silence. Because I was afraid, she finally said. Because I've spent my whole life being afraid. Of people who looked different. Of people who didn't fit. Of anything that didn't match my idea of how the world was supposed to work. She laughed bitterly. I grew up in a small town. Everyone looked the same, talked the same, thought the same. And when I got this job in this fancy school with all these wealthy parents, I thought I knew what to expect. I thought I knew what danger looked like. And I looked like danger. Yes. I'm ashamed to admit it, but yes. You didn't look like the other parents. You didn't act like them. And instead of questioning my assumptions, I doubled down. I convinced myself I was protecting those children, when really I was just protecting my own prejudices. Michael didn't respond. I know you probably hate me, she continued. I would hate me. I do hate me. But I wanted you to know that I'm going to do better. I'm going to get help. I'm going to figure out why I'm so afraid of people who are different, and I'm going to fix it. Not because I want you to forgive me, but because I don't want to be this person anymore. I don't want to look in the mirror and see someone who makes children cry. Michael opened his eyes, looked up at the stars. Mrs. Thornton. Yes. I don't hate you. I told you that in the boardroom and I meant it. What you did was wrong. What you did hurt my daughter. But hate takes energy, and I'd rather spend that energy on the people I love. She was crying now. He could hear it through the phone. I hope you find whatever it is you're looking for, he said. I hope you become the person you want to be. But I also hope you understand that forgiveness isn't something I can give you. That has to come from somewhere else. From yourself maybe. Or from God. I don't know. I just know it's not mine to give. I understand, she whispered. Take care of yourself, Mrs. Thornton. Thank you, and Mr. Brennan. Yes. Your daughter is lucky to have you. I know you probably hear that a lot now, but it's true. She's lucky. Michael thought about Sarah, about the promise he'd made. I'm the lucky one, he said. He hung up. 1 week later, Michael walked Emma to school. It was her first day back since the incident. They'd talked about it extensively, whether she was ready, whether she wanted to transfer somewhere else, whether she was scared. Emma had been clear. I'm not scared, Daddy, and I don't want to run away. That's what the mean lady would want. So here they were, walking through the front entrance of Whitmore Academy like nothing had changed, except everything had changed. The receptionist, a new woman kind-faced and warm, smiled at them as they entered. Good morning, Mr. Brennan. Good morning, Emma. Good morning, Emma said politely. Michael nodded. Morning. They walked down the hall toward Emma's classroom. Parents turned to look. Some smiled. Some nodded. A few came up to shake Michael's hand to thank him for speaking out to tell him their own stories of judgment and assumption. He listened to each one, thanked them for sharing, kept walking. Outside Mrs. Patterson's classroom, Emma stopped. Daddy? Yeah. I'm a little nervous. Michael crouched down to her level. That's okay. Being nervous is normal, but you know what else is true? What? You're the bravest person I know. Emma smiled, that gap-toothed smile that melted his heart every single time. Even braver than you. Way braver than me. Okay. She took a deep breath. I'm ready. She hugged him tight, then turned and walked into the classroom. At the door she looked back and waved. Michael waved back. Then she was gone. He stood there for a moment, watching through the small window in the door. He could see Emma finding her seat, being greeted by her friends, settling in like nothing had happened. Resilient, strong, just like her mother. A voice behind him. "Mr. Brennan." He turned. Principal Davies, a man he'd met many times over the years but never really talked to, stood there with an expression of genuine remorse. "I wanted to apologize personally," Davies said. "I was in a meeting when everything happened. By the time I heard about it, the police were already there. I should have been available. I should have prevented this." "You can't prevent other people's choices." "No, but I can create an environment where those choices are less likely. I failed at that, and I'm sorry." Michael studied him. There was no calculation in the man's eyes, just regret. "I appreciate that," Michael said. "Really?" Davies nodded. "If there's anything you need, anything at all, my door is always open." "Actually, there is something." "Name it." "I'm on the board now. First meeting is next week. I'm going to need someone who can tell me the truth about what's working and what isn't. Not the polished version, the real version." Davies looked surprised. Then something like respect crossed his face. "You'll have it, I promise." They shook hands. Michael walked out of the school and into the morning sun. The weeks that followed were strange. Michael's life had always been divided into two parts, the public success and the private struggle. Now those parts had merged and he wasn't sure where one ended and the other began. Reporters called. TV shows invited him for interviews. Organizations asked him to speak at events about prejudice, about single fatherhood, about standing up for yourself when the world tries to tear you down. He said no to most of them. Not because he didn't want to help, but because Emma needed stability. She needed her father present, not traveling around the country being a symbol. But he said yes to a few. 1 month after the incident, Michael stood at a podium in front of an audience of 300 single fathers at a national conference in Chicago. Emma was at home with his parents. She'd helped him practice his speech, offering suggestions like, "Maybe add some jokes, Daddy," and "Don't forget to smile." The room was full of men who looked like him, tired, determined, doing the best they could with what they had. Michael looked out at them and felt something shift in his chest. "A month ago," he began, "I tried to pick up my daughter from school. I'd done it every day for 3 years. Same time, same place, same routine. But that day a woman looked at me and decided I didn't belong. She called security. She called the police. She kept me from my daughter while my little girl screamed for me through a window." The room was silent. "I'm telling you this, not because my story is special. I'm telling you because I know many of you have similar stories. Stories of being questioned, being doubted, being treated like you don't matter. Stories where someone looked at you and saw a threat instead of a father." He paused. "When my wife died, I made her a promise. I promised I would never let anyone make our daughter feel small. But I've realized something in the past month. That promise wasn't just about Emma. It was about me too. Because every time I stayed silent, every time I swallowed my anger, every time I told myself that rising above meant not fighting back, I was making myself smaller. I was teaching my daughter that her father wasn't worth defending." He looked around the room. "We talk a lot about what it means to be a good father. Providing, protecting, being there. But there's another part we don't talk about enough. Self-respect. Because your children are watching. They're learning from you how to treat themselves by watching how you let others treat you." Heads nodded. Some men wiped their eyes. "I don't have all the answers. I'm figuring this out as I go, just like everyone else. But I do know this: you deserve respect. Not because of your job or your car or your clothes. Because you're a human being. Because you're a father who shows up every single day, even when it's hard. Even when no one notices. Even when the world tells you you're not enough." He gripped the podium. "You are enough. Don't let anyone tell you different. Not a stranger with a clipboard. Not a system designed to make you invisible. not a voice in your own head that says you don't belong. He thought about Sarah, about Emma, about the promise he'd made and the journey that had led him here. You belong, he said. Wherever you are, whatever you're wearing, however you got there, you belong. The room erupted. 300 men on their feet, applauding, some crying, all of them seen. Michael stood there and let it wash over him. He'd never wanted to be a symbol. But maybe being a symbol wasn't about him at all. Maybe it was about every father in this room who needed to know they weren't alone. Every man who'd been dismissed and diminished and told he wasn't enough. Maybe that was worth the loss of privacy, worth the exposure, worth everything. The drive home from the airport took 2 hours. Michael pulled into his driveway as the sun was setting. The house glowed warm against the darkening sky. Through the window he could see movement. His mother in the kitchen, his father in the living room, Emma running back and forth with boundless energy. He sat in the truck for a moment. The same truck Sarah had picked out. The same seat where she'd sat beside him 1,000 times, laughing, arguing, dreaming about the future. I hope I made you proud, he said quietly to the empty cab. I hope I'm doing okay. No answer. There never was. But sometimes in moments like this, he felt something. A warmth. A presence. The sense that she was still with him, somehow watching over them both. He got out of the truck and walked toward the house. The front door burst open before he could reach it. Daddy! Emma flew down the porch steps and launched herself at him. He caught her, swung her around, held her tight. Did you miss me? He asked. A little bit, she said, grinning. But Grandma made cookies again, so it was okay. Just okay. Maybe better than okay, but don't tell Grandma I said that. She'll get a big head. Michael laughed. He carried her inside where his parents were waiting. How was the trip? Robert asked. Good, really good. We watched the whole speech online, Linda said, eyes shining. It was beautiful, Michael. Your father cried. I did not cry. I had allergies. You cried like a baby. It was dust. Emma tugged at Michael's sleeve. Daddy, I made you something while you were gone. Come see. She dragged him to the kitchen table. A large piece of poster board lay there, covered in drawings and glitter and careful crooked letters. My Daddy the Hero. It read at the top. Below were pictures. A stick figure man holding hands with a stick figure girl. A school building. A heart. A sun. And in the corner, carefully drawn, a woman with wings watching over them from a cloud. That's Mommy, Emma explained. I put her in because I think she was watching when you did the brave thing at school. I think she helped you. Michael's vision blurred. I think so too, sweetheart. Do you like it? I love it. It's the best thing anyone's ever made me. Emma beamed. I know. I worked really hard on the glitter. That night after dinner, and stories, and tucking Emma into bed, Michael stood in the hallway looking at her closed door. His father came up behind him. Quite a week, Robert said. Quite a month. They stood in comfortable silence. You know, Robert said eventually. When your mother and I first had you, I was terrified. Absolutely terrified. I had no idea what I was doing. I made so many mistakes. I thought for sure I was going to mess you up somehow. You didn't mess me up. No. Because I showed up. Every day. Even when I was scared. Even when I was wrong. I just kept showing up. Robert put a hand on Michael's shoulder. That's what you're doing for Emma. And it's enough. It's more than enough. Michael nodded. His throat was too tight to speak. Robert squeezed his shoulder, then walked toward the guest room. Michael stood there a moment longer. Then he walked to his own room, lay down on his bed and stared at the ceiling. 4 days had changed everything. Or maybe nothing had changed at all. Maybe he'd always been this person, the man who stood up when others sat down, who spoke when others stayed silent, who refused to be erased. Sarah had seen it in him from the beginning, even when he couldn't see it himself. "I hope you're proud," he whispered to the darkness. "I hope I'm getting it right." And somewhere in the quiet of the night, he could almost hear her answer. "You are. You always were." Michael Brennan closed his eyes. Tomorrow he would drop Emma off at school. He would go to his board meeting. He would continue building his company, his foundation, his life. Tomorrow he would keep showing up. But tonight he rested. He'd earned it. 6 months later, Michael stood at the entrance of Whitmore Academy's new community center. A crowd had gathered for the ribbon-cutting ceremony. Parents, teachers, students, board members, all of them here to celebrate the opening of a space dedicated to bringing people together. A space where families could meet, where fathers could gather, where children could learn that belonging wasn't about what you looked like, or what you wore, or where you came from. Emma stood beside him holding the giant scissors they'd used to cut the ribbon. She looked ridiculous and perfect. "Ready?" Michael asked. "Ready," she said. They cut the ribbon together. The crowd applauded. And as the cheers washed over him, Michael thought about everything that had led to this moment. The humiliation, the anger, the choice to speak instead of stay silent. It had been the hardest thing he'd ever done. It had also been the most important, because silence might be comfortable. Silence might be safe. But silence never changed anything. Truth did. And sometimes, the truth needed someone brave enough to tell it. Michael looked down at his daughter. She was grinning up at him, scissors still in her hands, glitter in her hair from the celebration. "Daddy." "Yeah?" "I'm proud of you." He pulled her into a hug. "I'm proud of you too, sweetheart." "Daddy." "Yeah." "Can we get ice cream now?" Michael laughed. Some things never changed. "Yeah, baby. We can get ice cream." They walked together toward the parking lot, toward the old truck, toward the life they'd built from loss and love, and the stubborn refusal to be anything less than what they were. Behind them the crowd dispersed. The ceremony ended. The moment passed. But the legacy remained. A father who stood up. A daughter who learned to stand with him. And a truth that echoed long after the words were spoken. You belong. Wherever you are, whatever you're wearing, however you got there, you belong, and no one gets to tell you different.